business is a call to order. There are only 4 of us on this board. June Van Scoyac was removed, Berg Serafin has resigned, and Lisa Elliott has resigned. So that means right now we have 3, so we're right at the minimum, I guess. So we can go ahead and have the board meeting, okay? I've not met you, Tammy. I know I was at the city council. I'm going to take this so I can speak. I was at the city council meeting when you were, I don't remember if you were here. Yeah, you did. You spoke for a minute, I think.
I did.
Yeah. So I just seen you there. So welcome. I don't know where Jean is. She's our other member. But here we are. We haven't met in a while. We haven't met since March. And I think a lot of things have changed since then. So our roll call is George, Rick, and Tammy. So I'll make sure that that's noted. And the other people are not missing because, well, Jean is missing, but the other 3 resigned. 2 have resigned, one's gone. So, all right. May I have a motion for somebody to approve the agenda as published, please?
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
You want to second that? Okay. Okay. Anyone opposed? All in favor? All right. Okay. So, agenda is approved. Okay. First item on the board is the nomination and election of officers. It's a 2-year term as when appointed by the city council. I served for the last year as the vice chairman. I am no longer going to do that. So someone's going to have to pick up leadership of this board. I would like to continue as a member for the remainder of my time, but I'm not going to take a leadership role with it. So someone's going to have to step up and take on the chairmanship, the vice chairmanship, and I don't have the objective to be secretary. I'm pretty good at taking notes. I'll be happy to do that for continuity purposes. But before we go forward, we can't do any business without elected officers. So does anyone want to take on those leadership roles?
I nominate you for secretary.
All right. All in favor? Okay. All right. I will take on the assignment of secretary. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
So let me make sure I get this right. George, and we seconded. Okay. So Chuck.
Rick, I think Kyle's taking your
So yeah, I get.
Oh, are you gonna take?
Yeah, I'll give it to you right after.
Oh, you're gonna use the cheat sheet. Okay. Thank you. All
May I
right.
please ask a question? So it's my first meeting, and I know we're not many people, but like, if you could, I mean, I could probably do that to you, yes, but like, the duties of the chair and the vice chair, the vice chair can stick to the chair when they're not here.
Yep.
But like,
Huh?
you were chair.
Vice chairman.
Vice chair.
Yeah, I was vice chair last year, yeah. And so the duties of the chairman are to run the meeting, to develop the agenda. That's really pretty much it, to provide, general direction. I don't want to say, leadership, but general direction of the board. Our focus has changed significantly from what it was under the prior chairman. We were very, very focused on events. As a matter of fact, we had a list of, I don't remember now, 8 or 9 events that were approved by city council. And they have all been obviously canceled due to COVID. And for, quite frankly, some lack of interest and some flat-out antagonism in my own personal opinion. And I understand a lot of that. I wasn't a large advocate of having a bunch of city events personally. And I expressed that to the prior chairman. But that was the direction we were going, and that was the direction the city council approved. And then COVID came and everything has been put on hold. So the reason we're meeting today is we were asked by the city council, the mayor and the city council, to address the items that you should have received in the email that Patty sent out to you, which specifically relate to the marina and the slips and the rental of the slips and things like that. So to answer your question, the chairman just kind of leads the meeting, directs the meeting, disseminates information through City Hall. You probably saw that email that I sent out when Gene had sent me. You know, I can't, with the sunshine laws, you should also receive that in your email, okay? The short story on that is we can never meet outside of an open forum like this. And nor can, say I have I think it was a good idea. I can't communicate that to you and say, hey Tammy, what do you think about this? You know, we should bring this to me, because that would be ganging up, or it can be seen as it is seen as improper. So anytime you communicate, we need to communicate. Lynn is like, he's like home base. Lynn or Pat. You can talk to Lynn about anything you want, or you can talk to council members about anything you want. But we can't talk as members of a board amongst ourselves unless we're in this forum. So that's what I was trying to explain, Gene. Even though, I mean, that's probably a little bit of an overstatement, but it's a safe way to go. We could have conversations about when we're going to meet. We've had discussions about that, and that's been, Fred Riley said that was okay, but we want to stay clear of that. That way, you know, nothing is can ever be seen as being improper or an impropriety of any type.
I think
Okay.
you can meet and talk with anybody as long as it's not on the subjects related to.
That's true. If we were friends, or we were friends outside, we can certainly get
See you on the street, say hi, talk about ask the family, that's fine.
Of course. Yeah, we can do that. And that reason is, so anything that is officially city business, like we have a visitor here tonight. I invited her to stay with me. So, you know, and she's welcome. So anything that she hears tonight is open to anybody in the city. So that's kind of the way that works.
I'm a visitor. I read it, so.
Reading it, is one thing, but understanding how it applies, I think sometimes another. So I just send everything. Normally I send everything through Patty, and I copy Lynn, and then how they do it internally in the office, I'm not exactly sure. But you have anything you want to talk about on any subject, you can talk to Lynn about. That's
And I
fair
have
game.
his number, so that's good.
Yeah.
He's on me with a couple things.
Yeah.
I don't.
Or the mayor, or any of the council members, or any of those people can all be communicated with on an issue, but just not as a board. So that's what's required for chairman, is just to make sure that everything is being done in a proper manner. Kind of give out the general assignments, if you will, things we want to talk about, set dates, and then just facilitate. Really, you're more of a facilitator than anything else. Our focus, like I said, was extensively on events. Before that came into play, George was here before I was. I think the focus was on a whole park grant, which we received, and then the city council decided not to approve it. So that was a lot of work done by prior boards, but for whatever reasons, I was just decided not to go forward with that. So our work, you know, Parks and Rec, you know, really kind of what's left. We should probably be taking note on a regular basis of what's going on at the various beach accesses and parks within the city. Maybe come up with some suggestions of things, the way maybe they could be approved. And we're a point of contact for the residents if someone calls and they're not upset, but to say they have a concern, they want to bring forward, they're probably going to call Lynn. I mean, most of those calls go to him. He's been doing this a long time. He can probably answer 99% of the questions, but he might say, you know what, let me get a hold of the Park and Recs board and let me have them address that at the next meeting and invite them to come to that. So we try to do everything to get the community involved in the decision making, so it doesn't all fall on him and then the city council approves it or doesn't. So
the dollar stores issue that we're kind of going back and forth on, that doesn't fall under this board.
I'm sorry?
The parks and beach accesses, that doesn't fall.
Yes, it does.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
The beach accesses? Well, what aspect of them?
The beach accesses belong to Bel Air Shore.
Right.
They're not part of the park and rec. That's a separate entity.
But I don't think that's their nature of questions. We maintain them through interlocal agreements. So the sanitary, the condition of those are, I think, the the business of this board to monitor for the citizens, since they belong, accesses belong to the citizens of Bel Air Beach. But yes, the land belongs to Bel Air Shore. Right.
Thank you,
So-
I appreciate you explaining that.
Yeah. So, if you see, we need new trash cans, or the lawn's not being cut, or, you're not going to contact Bel Air Shore, you're going to contact Bel Air Beach, right? That's, I think, what she's getting at. Yeah, right. Or cars parked there, they're not supposed to be there, or things like that. That's, it gets kind of deep, but, so are we responsible for them? He'd say no, I'd say yes, but, we understand what each of us needs when it comes to that. So then we, of course, have parks. I can't remember how many we have in the city. 3? How many actual parks do we have?
13,
13 total. 13.
14.
How many?
With the beach accesses and everything.
Is how many?
All parks, 13.
Okay. So, that's one thing we had talked about doing, is going back and looking as a group, go to those and look and see, what the condition of them is, if anything. Lynn probably keeps some notes of things that are brought to his attention, of things that people want to see improved or cleaned up or whatever in those parks.
This board is pretty much a picture of what the chairman decides to do.
That was my next question, because you said the last one focused on this, one for that, this, I was wondering where those,
Previous chairman would meet 3 times in the whole year. Not this, my previous, I had 2 chairmen ago. We meet 3 times unless the city council says, would you study this for us? And look at this and give us feedback in the minute. We would do that. The previous one, a few months ago, was more proactive. She took it under leadership to design things, get very involved in the recreation parts of it. But the board might go for recreation or city parks. So she had a much different picture. Sometimes we've been twice a month, rather than just 3 times a year. So pretty much my state is wrong. The chairman pretty much can design how much activity this board does, other than watch the city council directs them. They can do nothing or very little.
Yeah.
As 2 chairmen ago did, or as the previous chairman, they can be involved in all phases of parks and recreation, particularly recreation. So it's kind of the design of the chairman. I don't know if I
No, that's right. I mean, yeah. So it really is a reflection of, the city, because we have a city manager who's, is very efficient and on top of things. He takes care of most of the business of the city. So we can be as, or the chairman can be as proactive, or, I'm sure there've been years where the board didn't meet regularly and really didn't do much. Then there was a whole initiative getting that grant together. That was a lot of work, but that was defeated. So we're kind of at a new start, really. We really are. We're at a new point, and it's going to be really the vision of the new chairman with the direction of the council and able-bodied of the city manager to kind of direct us. Because I'm sure Lynn has some things in his mind that, down the road, he's probably going to say, I'd like to have you look into it. So that's kind of an overview. So I don't know, if you want to step up and take on that position, or how do we want to go with that? And then we'll get to the, we have to select the officers. I don't think we can continue as a board without officers, correct? So we can't skip down to the next item, which is what we were asked to get together for, which is to do with the marina and the prices and the slips and the work of the planning, zoning and planning. So,
I don't mind volunteering for
okay.
position if it's needed, and I'll stay on mute and I'll leave you the whole time.
And then
But
I
it
hear-
doesn't.
Yeah. It's a really, it's not that big a deal on the venue. Yeah. So would you want to be considered for be the chairman?
I'll make a motion that Tammy, chairman.
Yeah, you elect the chairman every April. Because we haven't.
Every year, once a year.
Yeah. What's your, Levenda, is that right?
Lavenda, yeah.
Okay, I will second that motion.
Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. My husband and I moved to Bel Air Beach 3 years ago in June. And we still have our house in Northwest Indiana. It's about Razor. My husband works in Chicago. He kind of travels. So it's kind of where I'm here during the week and, we can come on the weekends, like Thursday or Sunday or whatever. I worked in Chicago. I was, at the end of my career, I was a district manager for a large distributor in Chicago. So I managed anywhere from 6 salespeople to 35 salespeople, depending on what was going on. So I ran meetings every week, so that's not like out of my comfort zone.
Sure.
Once I know the topic. So, I did it for 26 years, so I was pretty familiar. And Chicago is a union state, so Level 3, very, very, very strict union regulations for my sales reps, not upper management, but so I'm very used to following, you have to do this, and this. As far as how I handle my sales reps and whatnot. So I did that for a long time with the sales rep, and then kind of worked myself up or whatever. But then when we moved here, I started, I got my real estate license, my broker's license, I started buying properties, not here but in Indiana, so now I just manage our rental properties. So I
Gotcha.
can do that from here. I mean, if the toilet breaks, I call somebody, I don't fix it anyway. So most of my tenants don't even know I'm here. So that's what I do now. It's very flexible, and I was doing a couple of other volunteer things in a thrift store and at our church, but with COVID, all of that stuff kind of came to a halt, and I wanted to get more involved in where I live, but I didn't want to do it my first 6 months living here. So now that I'm more comfortable and I'm more familiar and whatnot, I want to get more involved. So does that help?
That's great.
Okay.
Can we have a motion and a second?
Thought you just made it.
I made the motion. You second?
Right, I second it.
So,
Yeah, all in favor of Tammy as the
aye.
new chairman, all in favor, aye. Aye. Okay, all right, congratulations. Well, George, that means you're
Number 4.
by default.
I guess I don't have
If you're
to-
okay with that. George has more experience, he's been on it before any of us. So he's seen probably 3 iterations, right, of direction of this board, right?
I've seen a lot of change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
So then I would nominate George Orland as the vice chair. One second.
Second, sorry.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Tammy runs the meeting. She'll run the meeting.
Yep. So would you like to, you can do it right from there. So you want to lead us through the,
So I did read through this entire packet. I had a couple questions about it, and maybe you guys can talk to me about through it, or it's kind of given when we were asked to research a little bit. So this research from Mr. Lutz, with our marina versus all the other marinas in the area.
You got to approve the minutes first.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Item number 3.
Minutes.
Oh, okay, from our board.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Just ask for a motion to approve.
Mhm.
ask for approval for the meeting from March 4th.
Make the motion, we approve the meetings of March 4th, 2020.
Second.
Okay.
So then to item number 4. So so our board was asked to do a little research on marina, previous research provided by Mr. Lusk. Does anybody know when he did this research? Is this pretty recent?
Yes, actually, Mr. Lusk was right here.
Oh, okay, you did a great job. I learned more about all the marinas in the area than I ever thought I would know, so it was wonderful.
I
What
did that back on July 22nd. I've done that in 2018. Probably every 2 years I do it for the city. So I do have a slip down there, and you can fire away with questions if you have it.
I had a ton of questions. So like, is the total number of slips we have like 23 or 25? I didn't,
18.
18.
19 total, one we don't use.
Okay, I couldn't tell if they went around that corner or
No,
if those
that's
were private.
Sand Key and then the homes.
It stops, okay. And how many do we have open right now?
Oh, yeah, one just opened.
Just
I think.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Just yesterday, one opened.
Okay, so it's pretty much full all the time?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So when we were asked to do like board research, what was the agenda? Was it to improve revenue? Was it to make ours in line with some of the other ones?
I
didn't
think
know.
I'll help you with an initial answer and then let Lynn and the board. So I got involved, Madam Chair, where I attend a lot of meetings, and I had heard a council member suggest that we raise the rates at the marina via a utility fee. Our utilities are getting higher, let's just split it up between all the slips. I hear like things throughout the years, and that's okay. That's one of our revenue streams for the city, is the marina. So to help council, I offered again to say, hey, let me step you back a little and provide you information about the marina, and then look at like marinas, if there is anything of the alike, which there really isn't. And therefore, you would have some current research to make educated decisions on what to do. So that's how it came about, at least.
So we really don't have like, there was no talk of like a budget to try to improve it. There was no looking at doing that. It was just like, do we raise it based on what it looks like in comparison to the other ways in the area? Or are we just going to raise it to raise it? Is it the only revenue stream from the park? There's no parking.
Yeah, there's parking.
So parking and the Lotus are those the two?
Right, from that area. There's just to give you a little background. The marina's been around probably 25 years-ish. It's been city property at least that long, maybe a year or two longer. But basically, what they've done over the years is it rents the slips. The marina is very basic. We don't have any fuel or anything like any other marina you've ever seen. It's more for convenience for residents, and there's a few non-residents that live there or live there that rent there. But for the most part, it's a place to dock your boat. It's got water and electricity, but that's pretty much all it has. The parking in the marina is dedicated to beach renourishment, because we have to have 70 spots.
70?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what's dedicated there. And, you know, you've got some more information in here. You know, the planning board did some research, and, you know, because the council was asking, well, can we do something to get more revenue out of the marina? And, you know, there's some options there, but it's quite expensive. You know, we looked into adding spaces at the back of your packet. There's a kind of a design.
All right.
That has to go through Army Corps of Engineers process. I mean, it's not just snap your finger and build docks. And it's pretty expensive. And the city did the initial thing with this probably 2001, 2002. And the city at that time hired a consultant. And that's where this design came from, Woods Consulting. And we did go back to them and ask what the cost to do the design work if we did in the future. It was a significant amount of money. I'm talking recently. So every year at budget time, we're asked to do comparison of the rental rates. And unfortunately, there's no apples to apples. We've got a great deep water area for boats to get in and out of. That's a positive. So when you look through what Bill did, you have to look at, when you look at the marinas as an example, we'll just take St. Petersburg for an example. Well, you know, they have different rates, they have different slips, they have facilities, they have gas, they have all this other stuff. Then you look at a place like Safety Harbor, which the rates are very low. They're only for residents, but Tampa Bay, to get your boat out of Safety Harbor, the tide's got to be high, and if you don't get back before the tide goes down, you're not going to get back because the bay is very shallow. And, you know, but they have limitations too. So, you know, then you go look at Dunedin. Its rates are pretty similar to ours in some respect, depending on the size of the boat. We have a minimum. We have a 30-foot minimum for residents, which is $7 a foot. So the minimum slip rental is $210, depending on the length of the boat. And if you have a boat that's 20 feet, you still pay $210. And you have to, if you want to lift, it's your lift, it's not part of it. You aren't in the lift business.
What happens to the lift if someone doesn't need it anymore, they move
They
away, they sell
take
their
it.
boat?
They take it
So
or,
they have to take it out or just leave it?
no, they take it out. Or if we know who's going in there, they could sell it to, and that's happened a few times. But the majority of the time, they take it out. Because it may be a different size boat that's coming in, and the lift won't handle it, or vice versa. The city at one time let people just leave them, and it became then city property, and it became a maintenance nightmare. And you know, we're not there to maintain lifts and things like that. So every year we put budget money, and it's mainly for things like the catwalks, or we've redone the boardwalk along the front. Over the years, some of the owners have paid to put pavers in. Well, it looked kind of patchwork, so we finished it. Was it last year, Kyle?
Yeah, I think it might have been last year early.
Maybe a year ago?
On the pavers?
Yeah.
Yeah, pavers were probably a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I would say over the last 15 years, and I'll just help you with this comment. I've been down there 15 years.
Wow.
There's never a complaint from a slip owner that goes to the city, but if anything is ever brought up, the city's right on it. I'll give you an example. 15 years, the fence was 4 feet. They brought it up to 6 feet. Beautiful thing, now lock key. Thank you for doing that. Like Glenn said, we did start some pavers down there. Might not have had the right approvals at the time. The city came in and finished it up. We've had the new decking put on within, I would say, the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So it looks great. And then we had Penny for Pinellas lighting that I think we received. And we have new lights down there too. So there's, you know, from the slip renter's perspective, everyone really goes down there to look out at the water and get out. Not really go there because it's a marina. So, that helps.
And there's no like ramp, like if you wanted to take a kayak out of there or
No.
something, right? There's nothing.
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I wasn't sure. I didn't really see like, oh,
No, there's Yeah, I mean, to probably, depending on the time, you might drop 6 feet to drop a kayak in there.
Right,
Then you'd have to jump in the water. No, it's basically, docking space for people.
This committee has spoken about potential kayak launching places at the other parks. And that was briefly discussed with us right back here.
Yeah,
So there are a number of options, but it's off the subject of some of our other responsibilities.
Like rentals or just run
The planning board was given a mission of looking at all the parks, all the parkland. There was thought, could you sell it? Could a house be built on it? It was, this park. So basically one lot. This park here is a Florida Communities Trust grant park where it can't be used for anything but a park. And some of the parks that were deeded to us, they were deeded with stipulations that they had to be parked in perpetuity. But most of them are single lots, except this one. And the city bought this property in, I want to say 94-ish. And they developed the things that are there right now were developed in like 2001 timeframe. And so, over the last 19 years, other than maintenance, nothing else has been done on this property. And that's why we put in for the grant, but then the city council decided not to spend the money. But the marina itself is, I think what the city council is trying to find out is what you guys feel is appropriate, or Mr. Lusk and I met, or Zoom, I guess it was, I can't remember, 2 or 3 days. But if you look, there's a page that Mr. Lusk and I discussed, and it says Belarus
Suggestion, yeah.
Okay. Based on the data that he collected, and, if the city council chose to raise the rates, then, I thought it should be over a time frame. You don't just go in and say, because some other marina has a rate of X dollars. To make it fair, maybe the first couple of years, what me and Mr. Lusk discussed was, okay, you reduce the minimum, and then you charge $8 a foot for residents, and you charge 50% more for non-residents. As an example, Dunedin charges double for someone that's not a resident. And then the other thing we discussed was, if you started new, the new rate would go over the 5-year period, but anyone new that came in would automatically be charged the $10 or $15 rate as a new renter. So they knew it up front. This is the cost it's going to cost you. We kind of looked at, would that provide a little bit of revenue? And if you look he's got some sheets here that talk about the different varieties and what the cost might be. So you pick up, as an example, based on if we did the 25-foot minimum and raised it to $8 or $12.
Right.
We pick up a few $100s a month. So the annual revenue would go up, over a year, maybe $3,000 or $4,000. But over time, you took the same amounts, if you just use the boats that are there now, over time, you pick up significant.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of where the point.
I'm sorry, did you say when was the last time the rates were raised here?
I couldn't tell you that. I know they've been this way for several years, but they haven't been there. I can tell you, it's probably been 6 or 8 years since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious.
I think I noticed.
Yeah, it's been a long time. We've had no increase. But on the other hand, we've made a few improvements and we've done investment in there. We do a program about $7,500 a year is a savings account because, as an example, if one of those boardwalks, catwalks go down, we've got to replace it. Or a tie pole, like the hurricane, we had a few tie poles that 3 years ago that got damaged, so we had to replace them. So we have a funding source every year.
So I guess, like, just because I'm looking at this pile of paper, like, I'm listening to this discussion, and I'm trying to figure out, like, are we supposed to, like, just kind of brainstorm and come up with some ideas, or are we supposed to?
Well, we've had this to look at, and if people have done that, we could certainly do that, or if we like the work that they've done, and that was the recommendation was a joint recommendation from you and Bill, right?
Just a
So-
5-year program, that we just approved.
That could be a motion, if, you know, because there were, obviously, they took the time and looked at this and have a little more background.
Right.
So, personally, I don't feel that we need to go back and look at the numbers and everything ourselves, because I know
Yeah, no.
Lynn's background and also, if that's recommended, I would be willing to make a motion that we approve the rate increases as suggested by the board and I guess, and endorsed by the city manager.
No, I agree, I just was,
Would
I
you-
wanted to make sure I was
Mhm.
clear on.
Yeah, So I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Then, I make the motion that let me see what exactly, what we call that slip there. Okay. Make the motion that the phased-in rate increases as proposed by the board and endorsed by the city manager, is that fair, Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay. Be approved.
Thank you. And I'll second that.
Okay. So, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye? Okay, so motion passed 3-0.
And this is all the rates. This is all the rate changes. That's good.
Not that isn't what this is about.
Okay, all other business?
Just something that a resident brought up, sent me.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Lynn.
A resident sent me a request on the, ask the city manager. Getting a lot of questions lately.
I'll bet. Yeah.
A proposal to have no smoking on the beach. And they're mainly talking about from 19th Street north, because that's all we can enforce.
Right.
And I know some beaches do have that. she mentioned somewhere, I guess, where they have a home here in Delaware. We've installed cigarette containers at each of the beach accesses down at the north end of town. And it would, but I told her I would bring it to the board. See what your thoughts were. It'd be very hard to enforce.
It's like, you know, it's one of the best rules we have, and it's like you can't make people pick up their dog. Like, you make the rule, but it's very hard to enforce.
Right.
Yeah, I wondered about the parks too, because when the beaches were closed for COVID, the little parks in between, and I live at 97 Harbor, so like, I'm between, you know, like off of First, so I've got the one right at the very beginning of Bella Beach, and then I've got the one on Second Street, so the little one right there where Indian Rocks ends.
Right.
It was packed, and I'm, you know, definitely allergic to cigarette smoking. You know, people would be out there smoking, and it would be like, it was sitting right next to me in my backyard. And so I wondered about the no smoking, there's no smoking in the other parks, but you would have like a bunch of like teenagers smoking, and then you have little kids like fishing with their parents, and so I wondered what if there was any discussion on the smoking thing.
Yeah, see, it's very hard to, very hard to enforce. That'd be like trying to catch a dog on the beach.
It is like catching a duck, and it's the same, that's what I thought of, you know.
So, you know, you could have a rule. We have the rule about no dogs on the beach, but is it going to be enforceable? And how is it going to be enforced? Because the only one that could enforce it would be a deputy. You know, we can put signs up, no smoking.
And you know, and some people I think will honor their signs, will be respectful and will honor, you always have people that
Right.
yes, you know, just like the park across the street, your children at play, please don't smoke, or your children fishing, please don't smoke, and some people are just gonna be like, okay, well, I can't smoke here. Just like, you know, they can't bring their cooler of beer, they can't bring that there either, it says on alcohol. And I've never seen people drinking there, which.
No, they do that on the beach.
They do that in the beach, right? So,
Sneaking at the beach, yeah.
Well, I see.
yeah, it would be one thing
Coffee
like,
cups.
what?
In coffee cups on the wall, yeah.
Coffee cups, yeah, it's a bigger, it would be hard to enforce, and I don't think whoever called you to ask for it, I mean, you could put up signs and would they feel better if they got down there and then every time they saw someone smoking, they're gonna call them. But yeah, so it's,
I don't know.
It gets
What's the
complicated.
board's
It's
thought?
not, they already have a lot to do.
I've got, you know, I'm not a smoker, but believe it or not, I have a little bit of empathy for smokers because they're not allowed to smoke any, you know, I mean, it is their right to ruin their lungs and their lives if they want to, I guess. But I'm also not a big advocate of having ordinances or signs and then you just don't do anything about them. You know, signs everywhere, signs. You know, I'm more concerned about the litter, and I think that's the main. I mean, there's enough. Yeah, you can smell cigarette smoke a long way away, but generally you can get away from it. If there's one person smoking, I don't mind moving a little bit if it's bothering me. I just don't. But what bothers me, and what, you know, if you're reading the Tampa Bay News, all the stuff about Indian Rocks, it's all about the litter. I didn't realize it. The cigarette butts, they say, is the largest single item of litter they find on the beaches. So that's really I think was this resident more concerned about literally breathing the smoke or the litter?
What she asked about was
Yeah.
smoking, you know, because what she said to me in the question was, we're from Delaware and up there they have a no smoking prohibition on the beach. Okay. And I know there are some places, I mean, there's parks that even in the Tampa Bay area that have a sign up that says no smoking. And there
Yeah, they do, don't they?
yeah, there are some. But there again,
Yeah.
sometimes I think signs, I'm kind of Rick's mentality. You can spend a lot of money putting up a sign, but do people read it or follow it, or do they read what they want to read?
And then the next question is, okay, so someone is a police officer going to give them a ticket for smoking? They could, but
Probably not.
probably
It's
not.
probably gonna warn.
What about taking the alternative, putting ashtrays or something like that? Please use ashtrays.
We have that.
Yeah.
We have the butt things. And
So, if I may,
Yeah.
George, excuse me for just chiming in there. George, in that vein, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking of some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. I've been to St. Bart's, I've been to St. John's. They're pristine. They don't have this discussion or problem.
Right.
And I think some of it is in your heart. If you're a smoker, you know, why would I damage this beautiful place? And what they've done, instead of just a place up where you walk, if there's an ashtray, there's these really cool little beachy cut cans with a rope saying, smokers, grab one, put it back when you're done. And they go to the beach and that smoker will go down with their chair, but they've got a little can. And that can comes back up with them, they empty it and put the can back on. So I think they addressed it in a different way. Instead of punitive, it's whatever, like you said, go ahead and smoke your cigarettes, but hey, keep it clean. And I think people
It may
get
not be what they were asking Lynn about, but maybe saying cigarette smokers, what probably, so
Could
you
be.
have like somebody just appointed that
Could be.
smoking, what's going on, kids. But it's one way to indicate that, okay, we've got to, don't go on the beach. It's discouraging.
Sure. I agree with George.
I don't know. I
Do
think
you wanna
we can
cons-
discourage it, but not
just
make
kinda-
it law.
Consider it for further discussion in another meeting and just kind of, I'm just at the point where I'm a little tired of being told, okay, you're wearing too much perfume, you got a peanut allergy, you got this, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can't have that. It's like, oh my God, people, do we really need no litter signs? People, like you said, if people are slobs, they're gonna litter. It doesn't matter how many signs you put up. It's all about who they are and what they are and what they believe. But the resident expressed it, and it is something to think about. I don't know how many people would be, like, just if, right now, if we took a vote for signs, who would vote for putting a sign up? Would anyone be in favor of that? I don't think so.
Well, you know what the sign said.
No smoking on the beach.
Don't bug Rick because he doesn't want any more signs up.
No smoking on the beach. No smoking on the beach would be the proposed sign.
I haven't. We've got to go repercussions.
Yeah. So, let's hold that. We can, don't you think? I'd suggest, ma'am,
That's fine.
okay, we'll consider it in another. So Lynn, you can respond. We're actively, we're on it.
About it.
I brought it forward there, and they're considering what's best for the majority.
Is there anything else that we need to?
Not that I have anyway.
I would suggest maybe for the next meeting, the work that Bill and his group did has to do with the engineering report about possibly building layers, building another layer to the marina.
I think that was planning and zoning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not
that's
on
fine.
that committee, just to be clear.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure you got that information, because the planning board spent several meetings
Okay.
discussing that.
Okay.
And that would probably be something, there was just to give you a little bit of background on it, there was a discussion about, could we lease the marina to a restaurant, and they built a second-story restaurant there, left the parking underneath it. So those were
Right.
kind of some of theirs. Or put in another 19 slips, which is a substantial amount of money to do for the future, and we don't know if we get approved or not because of the, it would all go to the Corps of Engineers. Yeah, so, I don't know if but those were suggestions that were made to the city council that they did their planning.
And that's zoning.
Huh?
That would go to zoning. Those are separate.
Well, it would go
That is the
to,
project.
Okay.
well, first of all, I think before it go anywhere, you'd have to find someone that had interest in,
Yeah.
Renting or building.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, for a restaurant. Well, I guess they might. I don't know.
Yeah.
Frenchies in Bel Air.
Huh?
I said Frenchies in Bel Air.
Right,
Howard
right.
Beach, all right. That would go over well.
Go ask Frank Chevis if he'd build. So,
So,
that's really it. So those are things that, we'll want to talk about eventually with the city council wants to go, but they haven't really given any direction on pursuing that at this point in time.
Like, would someone actively go out and try to find someone to open a restaurant there? Or like,
What we'd probably do, the city would probably have to create a RFP and put it out to the public. Anybody that had any interest in it would give a proposal to the city, kind of like a development agreement.
so city councils received that report, right? And they're making those, so we don't have.
Yeah, they haven't done anything with it since the, all these reports came in, and we had the charter review, the planning, and we had the finance.
Finance, yep.
And COVID came.
And then COVID came, yeah. We were on a real roll, really, for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where it's at.
In terms of other business, we're kind of short-circuited when development is coming back here, fixing up our park. And I assume it was
So what?
withdrawing proposal.
Grants.
Right, yeah. But I think we, at some point, need to talk about what this park means. I mean, really, some of the equipment, I guess, needs to be replaced.
Right, and that's why we submitted the grant to,
But it's just, we don't have a grant, so we still have a problem.
I'm sorry, because of the air, I
Yeah.
can't hear anything.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
well, we had a grant that we would have had to, it was a $400,000 grant, and the city would have had to match 200 of it. And the grant would have put gazebo, boardwalks, new playground equipment, tennis court was renovated. So the city council opted not to match it. We have in the budget for next fiscal year, the money to renovate the tennis courts, which we will do, that's in the capital budget. And we have money to build a gazebo out here.
Is that for weddings and for
Yeah.
rentals? How often does that happen?
Well, it was,
Before COVID, like a normal year?
well, unfortunately, things changed. They had a lot of rentals for a while, but then the city council at the time, this was before my time, decided, based on some recommendations, that we're going to raise the rental price. And it kind of dried up. Well, when I came, I told the city council the opposite. Just because you have an incident, that's part of doing business, okay? You know, if you have a restaurant that does, or a catering hall, and you have some people that do some damage, okay? That's, in that type of business, it's gonna happen. You aren't gonna get the perfect clientele all the time. That's just life. They did pay for it, but, and I don't really know how it came about. What I've gathered is the staffing at the time said, you know, it's too much of a headache, too much trouble, and there was things every weekend, and some Saturday and Sunday, and so they raised the rates.
Squished it. They squished it.
They squashed it. So now, we were starting to pick it up, back up, because we lowered the rates and did a little accommodations, you know, like, you know, we kind of created an hourly rate for short things, like 3 or 4 hours. And it was starting to pick up, and, you know, with the park grant, we were figuring, we'll get this gazebo, we'll build it a reasonable size, because we've got a prime location, it's on the water.
For sure.
And you can, you know, you're gonna get some extra rental out of that. Plus, on top of that, the residents would have, if they wanted to have a picnic or something, they'd have another opportunity to use it. So that was the plan, and COVID came along, and basically we had some cancellations, so we had to refund them their money. But we've had a couple of them that just said, we're going to move it to next spring. So, you know, they've delayed their wedding reception or whatever it was. And I do think once this COVID kind of gets along its way, I think this will pick back up. But I think we've got to invest in like something like the gazebo.
But those projects fall under the city.
Yeah. Yeah. The tennis court will go out probably next month after the budget's approved. And Kyle's already, I think you've got the quotes, right?
Yeah. For the
So, you know, we would renovate the court, put new fencing on, so that there's an improvement there.
Could I throw out something to be considered for new business?
Sure.
One of the initiatives before we went down the entertainment business, in the entertainment business, that I was excited about was looking at the parks. We're fortunate that we have the Public Works Department, and Kyle keeps on top of all that. But one of the ideas was, as a committee, or as a board, to go to the beach accesses as well as the parks, and look and just kind of see what the general condition of them, to give them another set of eyes. I mean, Kyle probably can close his eyes and see everyone and where every garbage can is and everything else. But as a resident, and I've lived here 10 years, I certainly haven't been to every park. And I didn't realize we had 13 with the 3 beach accesses. So there's 10. I have to really think about where they are. That's something I just would suggest that maybe as a board, we get together when the weather cools up. Well, I don't know, whenever's a convenient time, and go out, and we don't have to do it together. We could do it individually and get together and compare notes. We could each, get an address, and we could go to, each of us could go, 4 parks basically. Just take notes and then come together and see if there's anything. For 4 parks I look at, hey, I noticed these, and yeah, I know about that. We got that. We can just kind of do a resident check on our parks.
City
Do you want to
website.
pick them up now and do it for the next meeting?
I'm fine with that.
I would be.
I think that would be a good usage of our time. That would help you get a little background on what we have. And I'll also be more than happy to let you but take this book because it's got all the notes in the last minutes and like the things, the rental rates and all that. This is kind of really up to date. I'm not going to refer to it between now and the next meeting.
I'll bring it back.
Yeah, and that might be helpful to you to see kind of what we did and all the rest of that. Strategic plans in there, all that kind of stuff.
The city website has a nice section for Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, it does.
It shows all the parks. Pilots taking pictures, beautiful pictures of all the parks, and they look pretty good actually on the pictures. So it's a good starting point.
They're brushed.
Well,
I did,
Yeah.
I had a question, I'm sorry, Rick.
Oh, no, go ahead, Bob.
I was curious, and Lynn, could you help me with this? What determined over time what park was provided a couple pilings and a little pull-up dock to it or not?
That was done by whoever the city staff was at the time.
Yeah.
They would make recommendations.
Yeah.
Or there was a dock there, like I live on 8th Street. The dock that's there was just refurbished. It's been there since I moved here. So that's 22 years.
The one with the boat ramp? They cut it out,
Yeah, so
There's
that,
another one on Bay Shore that's really kind of cool.
yeah. So, over time, those, I want to say those were probably renovated 10 years ago, maybe. They got somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago, they came in and replaced all the wood and the pilings if they needed it. We've got some money that we're putting in to resurface the boat ramp at 7th Street because the concrete's cracked.
Oh, yeah.
And we did look into a boating grant for that, but unfortunately, we would never score enough points to even get close to the bottom of the list. Mainly because we don't have any parking there.
I wondered about that, like,
And really,
Yeah, we don't want parking there.
we don't want parking there,
No.
and we do have a problem with non-residents using it. And, I get complaints about that occasionally, but we've got a stormwater project there that's out to bid right now. We're going to go through where the actual ramp drive is. That's where we're going to put the stormwater pipe, so that area is going to be kind of tore up and repaved. And we have talked to a couple of contractors about redoing the concrete on the ramp, but they haven't really given us what we're looking for.
Well, Bill would stop powering his boat up onto the trailer there at the boat ramp. We probably wouldn't have that problem.
I don't own a trailer. I want to lift on another reason.
No, he just drives his boat up in there.
Yeah.
So I was purposeful on that question. As I'm listening, I didn't really realize that the park and my board kind of goes through these couple of year phases on entertainment and then, I
Before that
listened
was
to
grant.
that whole
They
thing
were
on the
focused
grant
on-
and like, kind of saddens me a little bit, but it is what it is. So, it's your opportunity. And I
Yep.
think one of the things that goes through my mind is, and I always find this true, not necessarily with the parks, but especially the marina. What is the long-term vision? What are we really trying to get to? So we can talk about the fact that a slip runner buys a lift and then has to get rid of it. What are our rates compared to what do we really want down there? And some of it's determined by the parking lot, what we have to have or not. And the same thing applies for our parks, which I don't think there's one that doesn't look beautiful right now, but
Right.
that might be based on that foundation of really scoping it out as a group. It might not even be your tenure that it happens in, but set the next 5,
like a
10.
5, 10, 20 year
Yeah, what does it look like? What are we really going for versus the incremental decisions? And Lynn could pull out a drawer of consulting fees, and, all right, we did these plans, we got these drawings, we did. Where are we really going with it?
Well, that's when I read this packet, I was like, I'm not really sure what the aim is. What's the goal? Like, we have all this information, where are we trying to get with it? So I didn't know if like we were truly trying to make more money, if we were trying to open a restaurant. I mean, obviously that would bring in more money. And then how much money were we trying to get to? Like, if we were like, we need to find an additional $10,000 in revenue, and then maybe this, or whatever the number is, we just don't have anything. Like, how are we gonna get there? So it kind of sounds like what you're asking for, and that's what I was wondering when I read this packet. I was like, I couldn't quite figure out what the aim was, if like we were trying to make it more like, one of the marinas that offers bathrooms and security and this and that and the other to make more money, or if we wanted to keep it kind of quaint and simple and it's working, why, it's not working, let's not fix it, but like, where can we do something else with that huge parking lot? Like, it was empty today. I rode my bike down there because I wanted to have like a vision. I've driven by it a million times, but I wanted like close-up vision on my bike of what like all of this stuff looked like, and like, I'm looking at the pictures and they're going down. Because when it said no security, I didn't realize there was a nice fence with the, gated. So that was more than I thought it had. So I didn't know if that meant a security guard or cameras or, like, I wasn't sure if we were trying to get like one of these other ones that were better equipped, or if we just kind of like it the same way we were just approving the rate increases. So that answered my question, because I didn't really realize that that's what we were doing, was just voting on those, or if we were like looking at this major project.
A little bit of the background. I was the chairman of the Finance Advisory Committee, residential. And if you look, there's a report there on the website. Take a look at that, because that's what we were asked to do. And the Planning and Zoning Board did a whole bunch of work. So a lot of that work has been done, and I think it's fair to say it's current. Would that be fair? So I think just my suggestion is at this point, maybe if you want to go online, Tammy, and get those 13 parks, and just send us an email via Patty,
Sure.
and say, Rick, take blah, 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 George, take blah, 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 I'll take blah, 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 and go with an open mind and just like take a review of them and see what our reaction is, and that might be one of the agenda items for our next. Because you're going to find, when you read through this material, Planning and Zoning Board, Finance, all this was done, and it was just done. So we're kind of here at an enviable point here where we can really focus on parks and rec and trying to make what we have in the city better maintained for the residents. We won't go up any rabbit trails on festivals and things like that. We're just going to stay on what we're doing.
No, that sounds good.
Would that be useful? Would you say that's fair to say?
Yeah, with the COVID, unfortunately, we are planning on
Right.
events.
And if like no one minds, like when I send it out, because like I'm literally into the parks with my dog every single day. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna put myself at the other end of the
Good.
Miller Beach, because I like some of these places I don't think I've seen. Like right along where I kayak, I can see, 5th Street, 7th Street, 8th Street, all of them. But like if you go under
Yeah.
the bridge, I know nothing. And like I'm scared to see a kayak in the river, so.
Mine probably the same way. I've lived here for 10 years. I haven't seen all the parks.
Yeah, I want to get to the other end and maybe get you to my end.
I should have.
Okay, sorry.
Well, when you're here 20, you'll.
Yeah, I will have seen them all, yeah.
I mean, most of these parks are just beautiful. And they're, when you go on the website, there's a description that says something like what activities are done there, and say sitting and watching the landscape or something, or dog or something like that. But how could we enhance them to make them better? Like, is there a need for electricity in some of these? We need lighting, we need water, or is that just, no, we don't need that, we don't want that? And it wasn't the kind of thing looking toward the future. Bill said, if you want to improve something, what's the goal of it?
Well, like, saying that, like, on Second Street, there's like a fish cleaning station, but there's no water, so honestly, it's disgusting. And I know, like, you know, if like someone does
So,
catch
yeah.
a fish and they want to clean it at that
Yeah.
station, and they leave a mess there's no garbage can, there's no running water, so like, it was kind of like half finished to me. Like, you can fish and you can clean it, but like, then it's gonna smell and,
These two are each other like, yeah. we
well, I'm
know.
sorry, that's just what I was thinking, like, when you said that, like, it's what
Well,
it
I
reminded me
fish
of.
at 20th Street, park down there.
Yeah, we have to go clean up.
And I get,
Yeah.
whenever I go,
There's dead
I get
fish.
Lynn to come up and clean up after me.
Uh-huh.
But we just always bring a
Take the
bucket
whole
so we
thing
can
out.
dip a bucket of water on it, wash it all off. And there's no-
Right.
So anyway, that's something, when we were there, considered utilities, or not utilities, for a park. How it would benefit it or not needed, or just be a practical nuisance. That's something to think about.
Because in the board that George was a part of, and you'll see it in here, they were consumed for, I don't know how long, probably 2 years putting together this plan. It was very extensive, but when the grant was not approved by council, so that's water under the bridge now. So now, also, the maintenance plan is also in there, I think, from Financial Advisory Board, so you can see when the different work is scheduled to be done. That'll be helpful to you too, but I think now's our time to really focus on Parks and Recs and what I think we're supposed to be doing.
Just something, we have 4 beach, I call the 3 easements. We have 4
Easements, yeah.
beach accesses. They're just walking paths off of Gulf Boulevard. And if you drive down Gulf Boulevard, some places you'll see some bicycle racks and things like that. We got a $50,000 grant from Nellis County, bid the project, and the city's gonna put 50 in it also. We're gonna replace all those boardwalks over the dunes that go out on the beach.
Wow.
So, we got Pinellas County to share the cost.
That's awesome. I love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
What's going on?
A lot of good stuff going on.
And obviously, 19th Street, the doors is,
Takes
come
all the
across.
money, you know, right now it's
They had to go to-
expensive.
get rid of the back.
No.
We keep digging it out, keep going back.
Yeah. Yeah, see the issue with the beach easements is that anything we do with them, we have to get approval from Bellers Shore. Technically, that's, if we did an improvement there, we're supposed to ask them. And I'm going to tell you, for 18 years ago, the park board put oak trees in there, and they had to take them out.
Is it the leaves? Or
Well, Bellers Shore didn't want oak trees. And if you go to this park, they're inundated with oak trees because that's
Yeah.
where they went. So in essence, we moved those trees to here, and now we have like
Monster.
a forest of trees that are all connected together. with-
And that's where they came from.
Yeah, the park board went
I'll
out
be
and bought
darned.
them, or the city did,
Yeah.
and they put them in
And they
the,
did it without approval? They did it
yeah,
without-
oh, Miller Shore went crazy on that. And,
Surprise. Yeah, I should have known better to plant trees. I mean, my God.
I mean,
I mean, really.
so here, we ended up with a really nice canopy, but realistically, there's too many trees in that park.
Yeah.
So,
It's kind of a cute story though.
I think it was like 12 of them, if I remember right. They put 4 in each one of those, and then they moved them all here, and I'm like, oh, but you don't expect that to happen.
Right.
You're So,
Hey, Vice Chairman, I think it's your time.
This time I don't have a motion.
yeah.
You
So-
make your motion unless,
I make a motion we adjourn unless it's further business.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.